Uh, my name is Charles Wright, and my daughter, Janae Noel Patrice Wright, finally came forward and acknowledged the fact that about her being sexually abused, and she made awareness of it, and the fact is that her mother knew about the abuse. The judge admonished me for separating the perpetrator and making sure the perpetrator did not have any contact with the children. And in return, the judge sanctioned me heavily, time and time again, every time this was brought before the court or attempt to be brought before the court. My name is Charles Wright. I'm a victim of family court corruption. I live in Dearborn Heights, Michigan. I'm a licensed private investigator. I've worked over 23 years with Michigan Department of Corrections. At the current time, I'm a parole agent. I never thought a tragedy as such would come into play or was even aware of it that was existing in public. I've been dealing with a judge named Judge Nancy C. Francis, but now she goes by Judge Nancy Wheeler, her maiden name. She has openly and on the record stated as far as having transcripts pulled out, evidence pulled out, and destroyed. I repeat, destroyed, evidence destroyed. It all came about in 2006 when I filed for divorce for the best interest of my children and also for myself. Things trickled down more and more as the process went on. I became more aware as far as, we'll say, the biasness towards the judge. I didn't believe it until certain things weren't being allowed on the record, but openly lies were taken as being true, factual documents were being refused to be admitted as far as evidence. In return, CPS worker Joyce Adela Mansfield out of Washtenaw County did an investigation. A lot of families have secrets. Sometimes secrets, we'll say, can be actually deadly secrets or the greatest family secret of all. In regards, found out during the process, my wife allowed abuse to exist for 2 years to one of my children. This happened during the course of divorce. When I found out that she had the carnal knowledge of it, it seemed like the judge went out of her way, again, to have evidence destroyed for the knowledge of her allowing this to happen to not exist. It broke me, it broke my children. The judge went as far as, we'll say, financially try to break me to the point every 2 weeks for a certain period of time I was going home with only $75. From what I found out, the judge has absolute and also qualified immunity, which means she's exempt for any type of criminal or civil prosecution to come about for her. And at this point, I cry out for help. I've sent faxes to Congress. I sent faxes to all state representatives along with senators. Nobody seems to want to help. But I thought as far as fraud upon the court, along as far as perjury and destruction of evidence, I was even told that I had no constitutional rights to my children. It broke my heart. My children cried out for help, and nobody wanted to help my children. They had begged, and they even testified before the subcommittee in Lansing.
Can you name some of the names of the people that are involved out here in what county you're in?
Washtenaw County. Maura Corrigan, Director of Department of Human Services. I've spoken directly with her. She's turned her back on it. Stacy Bladen, Director over Child Advocacy. Steve Yeager, over a certain department dealing with CPS. Again, Judge Nancy C. Francis. Chief Judge Donald Sheldon is directly involved in that. And again, Joyce Mansfield. There's other names or other players involved.
Okay. What's your occupation?
I'm a licensed private investigator and also a parole agent for Michigan Department of Corrections.
So you have to be somebody who's trustworthy and...
Well, it goes beyond trustworthy with that because occupation-wise, as far as background checks and as far as I'm also a weapons instructor, and I have been an instructor for sexual harassment policies when I worked inside the institution. So I was a trainer for many different things. So level-headed, yes, I must be in maintaining performance in my duty.
When did you and your wife meet?
My wife and I met in I'm not the guesstimate this, 1994 or 95.
And you married when?
We married in 1996.
And when did the problem start?
The problems started as far as a shift of behavior was, I'd say, it was discovered, I say back in 2002 or 2004, it was a question because my former wife and I were getting in constant arguments. And she was protecting on another family member. And again, working in a profession, both professions, you have a suspicion of certain criminal activity. And whenever it was challenged with that, it was basically said that, no, you're just making it up. It's in your own mind. It's not happening on what you're saying.
And when did you take action to try to get something done about it? When did that happen?
When I first felt something was going on, I tried to take action by asking the children what was going on. But later it was discovered during the divorce by one of my children. The children was told by my ex-wife not to tell Dad. Don't tell Dad. Don't tell Dad. And like I said, you may know somebody for 100 years and 30 years and never really know that person. A divorce can bring up a lot of, we'll say, family secrets. And that was the big mystery was, did Mom know about the abuse when the abuse was taking place?
Can you describe in broad terms what type of abuse we're talking about?
Talking about extensive sexual abuse to one of my children.
Okay. Boy or girl?
Girl. And also to another one later on during the course of the divorce.
And you learned about this from the child involved, or all the kids, or what?
Partly when I first got carnal knowledge of it, the perpetrator had said they basically had just put his hand on my daughter's butt and tried to kiss her. And then later on, it was discovered that no, he went a step even a lot further than that, and it went on for a practice of 2 years. And during the course of 2 years, during the divorce process, my daughter finally came out and said, Mom knew about the abuse. Mom was the one who told us not to say nothing to Dad. And when this ordeal took place, when it finally came out, we filed emergency motion. Prior to that, the judge said she had no, any time, we'll say, reference to when she would make her decision on the divorce and how it was going to go. As soon as we filed an emergency motion, the judge stopped that process and said, no, we're going to hold off on emergency motion. I have my decision now. And even when it came to as far as, we'll say, when we filed the motion, my ex-wife responded to every accusation except for that accusation, which means under Michigan compiled law, if you do not respond to it, you're basically guilty by non-admittance. And the judge never took precedence to that. Instead, the judge had went everything she went, even back in April of this year, to try and stop us from going back into the fact is my ex-wife knew about the sexual abuse that took place and allowed it to go on for 2 years. That is my former stepson.
How old is he? Or was he at the time?
He did this from the age of 10 years old to 12 years old.
And how old was your daughter at the time?
She was 8 years old when it started.
And when you raised it with the judge got mad at you or turned the tables on you?
What the judge had done is, okay, it was kind of, and when I say the judge, to me, she did not work alone with this. She used, as far as my wife's divorce attorney in the process, because they did everything they could to stop the process as far as the discovery or being brought up. And again, we could not prove that she had carnal knowledge of the abuse that was taking place unless my daughter was to testify. They stopped my daughter from testifying during the course of the divorce, therefore it wasn't brought out during the trial of the divorce. And my daughter freaked out because she could not testify and let the truth finally come out. So later on she wanted to be videotaped, and she was videotaped. But of course, I was one who videotaped her, and they would not allow it. They stopped everything once we filed an emergency motion with that videotape. And
so let me
go ahead.
Make sure I understand that. So you filed an emergency motion. It included the videotape, and clearly the judge had knowledge of the sexual charges.
Oh, absolutely. And before it was actually brought up, we'll say to the court and everything else, my former stepson, when he was taken out of the house and put into another school, Connor Creek Elementary School, or whatever it was, Connor Creek Academy in Detroit, he was bragging to some of his fellow classmates about what he had done to my daughter. They contacted my ex-wife or wife at the time, and they called the situation. Later on, come to find out, my ex-wife was bringing on visitation time. She was bringing him back to the neighborhood. So evidently he had bragged to one of the neighbors, or neighborhood kids, should I say. They contacted CPS. CPS contacted me. When they contacted me, like I told my ex-wife, okay, I have nothing to hide. If this situation, instead of just taking him out of the house, ever goes to another level, okay, because it was only thought when he was removed from the house, he said he was trying to have sex with his sister by putting his hand on her butt and kissing her. Later on, it was discovered it was far more than that. I told her I would never hold back from as far as if this is investigated. Well, at the time and during the incident, my ex-wife had a home daycare. She refused to cooperate with the police investigation. I fully cooperated with the police investigation. They in return said, no, Mr. Wright, we believe you're the one who contacted CPS. You're the one who brought all this stuff up. And I was beside myself. I was mad, I was angry, I was very bitter. And again, what do you do when all of a sudden you're forced out of your home to protect your children from the woman you just discovered for sure now that is a fact, because it finally came out of your daughter's mouth during the divorce, that she knew about the abuse and allowed it to go on for 2 years. Now you're being forced, you have 5 hours to leave. Pack everything that you have, personal property, into your vehicle, and you have to leave out of the house. Like I said, I was beside myself. I was hurt, I was beside myself. And I was lost. I'm going to try and do that without getting emotional into this.
How old was your daughter at the time that produced the videotape?
Let's see. We're talking about, that was in 2007. It's 5 years ago. So she was about 13 years old, 13 or 12 years old.
So she's old enough that in most states they would accept that. Like I just came from Ohio where it's 11.
Oh, absolutely. And she took it a step further though. Because when I say she took it a step further, when she had came and finally came out and told me, it was after she was coming back from therapy. She told me, she goes, I told Luann again. I said, what are you talking about, baby? She goes, in therapy, I just got done telling Luann, that's another person, Luann Ray Hume of Catholic Social Services. Mom knew about the abuse. I said, what did you say? She goes, I told Luann again about mom knew about the abuse. My eyes filled up with tears. I pulled over the car, asked her to repeat it again. She repeated it. I said, you told Luann and you finally come out and say it? She goes, yeah, I did. Luann, I called Luann from Catholic Social Services. Luann mumbled a couple things, but she really wouldn't go into it. And the next thing you know, when it came up to as far as testifying, Luann testified before my daughter could and said, no, I don't think it'd be in the best interest for your daughter to testify. But come to find out, she knew about it and she didn't do nothing about it.
Now, were you divorced at the time this happened? You talked about packing up your stuff. You guys were still together?
Yes.
You're still together. You raised the issue. Then they force you to move out.
Yes.
They refuse to accept your daughter's testimony.
Yes.
What visitation do you have now? I still have 4 minutes. I don't know.
At this current time, because my wife decided to, not because the judge, okay? Because my ex-wife, as she told my children, she was done with them. She didn't need them no more. I have custody of my 2 oldest. My youngest daughter is still stuck in that situation where, because of the issues that I have raised, the judge does not allow me to have any contact with my daughter. I have no right to even know where my daughter lives.
And today, you're denied any access with one of your children.
Yes, with my youngest daughter, Emma. I'm denied total access. At the same time, my children, my 2 oldest children, are very highly, we'll say, emotionally upset for the simple fact is they did nothing wrong, and yet they can't even see or talk to the younger sister because someone wants to hide the truth, all because someone didn't want to do their job in the beginning and accept the fact is that, guess what, mothers like this do exist, and that a judge can be wrong. And for this act of a judge can't be wrong and CPS failing to do their job, because according to Joyce Adela Mansfield, we're all here friends with Judge Nancy C. Francis, and let's begin this meeting. It made no sense. We had a special meeting one time, and before we began the meeting, she said, we all respect the judge highly, we respect her decisions. As a matter of fact, we're all here, we're friends with her, so now let's begin the meeting. And it was even brought up during the meeting about what my ex-wife had allowed to happen.
We've got a minute left. What needs to change, Charles?
I highly believe that as far as what happened in 1983, giving judges absolute immunity and qualified immunity was a crime itself. There needs to be judicial accountability for their actions, criminally and also civilly. Families are being broken. Cultural indifferences are being lost amongst people. Children are being alienated from parents. Parents are being alienated from children.